Evening. Hope everyone has had a lovely day and a nice productive day, hopefully, or a resting day, whatever you've been doing. I hope it's been a fantastic one. So this evening I am going to be talking to you about this idea of like online learning fatigue, lockdown fatigue, which I think is obviously such a big topic for us at the moment. Some of the kids went back to school on Monday, and that's a really small number, but obviously lots and lots of our teenagers are still at home, and we've been going like 3 months now, so I think it's really difficult at this point. Definitely any motivation is starting to wane a bit. The sort of routines we all had at the start, we're really struggling to keep up with those as well. And I know definitely with my own little ones, I had really grand plans when this all started of how we're going to follow a timetable and have certain breaks here and there and do this and that. And now we're all so tired and frustrated by what's happening. And teenagers, there's been quite a lot on the news this week actually about the teenagers as well. So I shared something the other day in the group where I was saying about how I think it's like a third of teenagers aren't engaging with work now that's being set by teachers, and I can totally understand why that's happened. Even though it makes me sad, I can totally see it. There's also been a lot about teenagers' mental health, because those secondary school years teenagers are so vulnerable at that point in terms of mental health, and studies have shown that actually mental health problems start in the teenage years. That's where a lot of habits, a lot of negative thinking is formed. So this lockdown is really not what they need at all, and it's really potentially damaging for their development. So I just want to give you some tips of things you could do maybe to help your teenager along if you feel at this point perhaps they've lost their way a bit, perhaps you want to kind of steer them a little bit in the right direction. I want to start off by saying, whatever it looks like, everyone is in the same boat. Yeah, maybe some of us have it slightly easier than others, we've got maybe more help here or there, but generally by and large in this lockdown everyone has struggled, whatever it looks like. And social media is awful for this. I mean, I've got to admit, I've been guilty of this. I've had Julia doing some handwriting sheets, and I thought, oh, that's a cute picture, I'm going to snap it, going to pop it on Instagram, go, hey look, we're doing handwriting today. So I'm guilty, hands up, guilty of it too. But actually there have been days, to be honest, like today, she's pretty much just watched Pokemon for most of the day. I was teaching in the morning, we did a bit of German class, but after that, there's been no structure or shape to the day at all. So those nice little Instagram pictures of us doing our handwriting, doing our phonics, don't really tell the whole story of lockdown. So don't compare if your mate's got a picture of their son up in the study doing his maths or doing his science. That's not necessarily what's actually going on all the time in that home. Social media, as we know, lies a lot. But tips then, if you're struggling, I know I've said timetables and we're struggling to follow them, but it is worth keeping going with timetables. You've got to think, there's a reason, secondary school, there's a reason we follow the same timetable each week. Teenagers, children generally love that consistency. They need that reassurance and consistency of knowing that they're going to be a certain place at a certain time, and that particularly vulnerable children, even though they might complain about school and they might say they don't want to be in it, actually for a lot of them school actually gives them that routine and consistency that sadly some teenagers don't get at home as well. So try wherever you can, try and have a timetable, but be realistic, and no one is expecting you to replicate a school day. No, the expectations aren't there. The teachers aren't expecting you to do that, so don't put the pressure on yourself. You may well be like me, trying to work, trying to run a business as well. Don't put that much pressure. Just try and have some kind of timetable, some kind of structure for the day. Make sure whatever timetable you have, teenagers need breaks. They need to move away from online. For my teaching, when I do one-to-one tutorials, if I do like a 2-hour lesson, with sort of 2 students back to back, I'm zonked by the end of those 2 hours. So don't, you can't expect your teenagers to be doing online stuff for hours and hours and hours. It just isn't going to happen. So there needs to be lots and lots of breaks. I would say probably for their age group, not much more than over an hour really at a time in front of the computer screen. for them. Mix up the subjects as well. I know that might be hard, like if you've got a subject that is giving, you know, there might be a teacher who's really, really keen on it and is giving loads and loads and loads of work for the kids to do at home. Then you might get another subject where not some, you know, for whatever reason, not so much is coming home. So it might be tempted to do too much of one, but just be aware of overload. Try and spread it out as much as you can across the subjects. And with the timetable as well, try and have consistent time for the work. Now, that doesn't mean though, as I said, you don't have to replicate the school day. And it's been said, actually, a lot of studies have proven that we should be starting our school day a lot later. And that teenagers are just not ready, but until about 10 o'clock. They're not actually, brains have not woken up, not ready to get started. So, you know, use this to your advantage, you know, doesn't matter. You know, have a bit of a lie-in, have a longer breakfast. Perhaps you just have the rule, you know, 10 o'clock we go and do some school. It's where obviously, you know, that lie-in and that lazy breakfast then becomes let's watch a bit of Netflix and let's go on the Xbox. That's what you don't want. So you can have a bit of relaxation, give them a bit of time to wake up in the morning, but then have your certain times. They're like 10 o'clock, no, we're going now, we're going to go and do your schoolwork. And think about, you know, what works best. Some teenagers will work better in the evening. They'll already be starting to work out and develop that pattern. If you think as adults, we know by the time we're adults, are we early birds or night owls? What do we prefer? What works better for us? And teenagers will be starting to work that out. So actually, if they prefer to do some work in the evening, you know, let them. This is a time you can sort of experiment a bit with them, in terms of what's going to work best for them. You know, like I say, it comes back to the point. It doesn't have to be, you know, 8:30 till 3:30, replicating the exact patterns of the school day, because you can't do that. It's not reasonable. You're not going to get through this lockdown trying to do that. And try and make sure, I know I spoke about this a few weeks ago, but a place for work, you know, a set workstation that they can go to. I think, you know, if they're trying to do work, like, you know, one day they're trying to work in the kitchen, the next day they try and work in the lounge, then they're up in their bedroom. They need to know when they go to a certain space, you know, I'm in work mode now, you know, phone's going to go away there, I'm not going to look at my phone, I'm not going to go on YouTube, you know, I'm away from Netflix, I'm doing work now. So make sure, I know, as I said a few weeks ago, you know, I would love to have a study, I would love to have an office. At the moment, with 2 little ones, it's just not working. But where I am right now, my little corner of our guest bedroom, I know when I come here and sit down, this is where I do my work. This is my workspace. So try and make sure they've got that similar space as well to sit down and work in. I've posted about this actually the other day in the group, but try and make sure, you know, that they're you know, in contact with their friends in a good way. You know, it doesn't just have to be a distraction. Actually, you know, kids do genuinely, when they're focused and they've got specific goals and things to do and they're engaged in what they're doing, they do work well together. You know, I've seen in the classroom when they're really getting it, actually they can really work together really effectively and help each other through tasks. So things like, you know, if they perhaps get them like having a WhatsApp group with their classmates, for example, and then, you know, if they're sat there and the teacher set, you know, a worksheet that day and they can't make head or tail of it, they've got somewhere to go. If, you know, they don't have that for whatever reason, there are loads of forums online. The student room is a great one. I think it's another one of those things that sort of started out more as a university thing and has gradually moved down, but I know like GCSE, I've seen, you know, GCSE students on there when they're not sure if they're revising and they don't know how to prepare for a paper. I've seen that, you know, they'll put a question, say like, how do we revise this topic? And other students will come back and say, oh, our teacher told us to do this, or I'm trying this. So have a look around, but, you know, they need community. If they're just on their own all day, you know, the effect on their mental health as much as anything is going to be really, really catastrophic at this point. So make sure that, you know, get them engaging positively with the community. You know, even things like Facebook, there are study groups, I've seen them. You know, I do my sort of market research, what's already out there. You know, there are study groups, advice groups out there as well that they can go to, things designed specifically for students. But, you know, it's about getting them talking, getting them interacting, because that's how the best learning happens, as well as through interaction. Where I know it's hard for the teachers giving them work. You know, there's only so much they can do, but where possible, if they're working perhaps a bit more independently, try and get them to have a variety of tasks. So, you know, if they just get, you know, their task for the day is, you know, revise this topic, or they're revising for exams, try and get them doing a variety of different tasks. So what I mean by that is, perhaps, you know, they watch an online video about something, then they do something like they make a mind map, and they're doing, you know, kinesthetic visual learning, actually putting ideas down. Perhaps then they answer some questions from a textbook. Perhaps they have a little bit, you know, just a bit of time just to read. Perhaps they listen to a podcast on the topic, for example. But it's about, you know, engaging the senses in different ways. So I know if the teachers set specific things, they maybe want to follow that really exactly. But if you do have a bit of freedom, you know, they can sort of adapt tasks a bit to suit them. You know, can't imagine that teachers will be angry about that if they've adapted a task to suit the way that they work. Also, I like to do things like, you know, I remember when I was a student, like video, I tended to do that like at the end of my revision sessions. If I was coming to the end of my revision day, I did languages, so one of my things was, it sounds a bit silly, but I sometimes put a favourite film on and change the subtitles into French, for example, and would sit and watch, I don't know, like Bridget Jones's Diary in French. I know it might sound bizarre, but that was you know, still revision. I was still getting my brain into French mode, for my A-level French exam, but it was a bit more relaxing. It was more passive. You know, I could just sort of sit back and enjoy the story a bit. So I'm thinking about, you know, ways to mix it up, match their mood, match the task to what they're actually feeling up to at that point as well. Also, you know, again, think outside the box. I mean, one of the things, I'm not a homeschool parent, I'm not sure whether I would be in the future or not, so forgive me, I'm probably going to make really big sweeping statements about homeschool now, which are inaccurate, but generally I think, you know, the ethos of homeschool is you're looking at alternative ways of education. The idea that, you know, I think, as I say, I'm probably going to get tons of messages now from homeschool parents. I'm not trying to offend with ignorance, but I think there's more of an ethos of, you know, education doesn't always have to be just about sitting at a desk and writing notes. You know, going out and having a variety of experiences. So I know some mums are travelling, and they use the travel as a way of educating their children. They're going out and actively broadening the children's horizons. So what I'm getting at with all that is, for example, you know, if there's a play on YouTube, you know, if they're studying Romeo and Juliet and you find a version on YouTube, you know, get them to sit and watch that. It's, you know, thinking outside the box a bit. Other ways that they can experience culture and develop their learning with that. And even, you know, like watching the news, that's education for them. You know, think about education in different ways. If they're out in the garden, if they do some gardening, I'd love to hear from the parents who get their teenagers gardening. I don't know how well that goes down, but if they do, you know, brilliant. But, you know, that's a different kind of education. They are still learning about stuff, even having them out, you know, learning skills that they're going to use in the future world. You know, use this time. You know, it doesn't all have to be about academic learning at this point. The other thing then, have goals and targets for each week. I mean, by this point, you know, your students should have an idea of what's coming from school, how regularly it's going to come, when it's going to come. So, I mean, I'm working with a student at the moment who knows he gets his task set on certain days, so he sort of plans his week around that. So, like, he knows he's going to get, like, English on Thursday, so Friday is probably going to be a good day to work on English. So what I'm saying is your child should have an idea now of what their week's gonna look like. You know, whether they're actually getting any actual proper Zoom sessions with teachers. They should be able to plan a schedule, and with that means they should be able to set some goals each week. Even if they're only basic goals, you know, try and think about what they want to get to grips with, what they want to achieve in a particular week. So getting them to set, you know, goals and targets for, you know, what they've got to get through. Like when I'm feeling really overwhelmed, what I tend to I'll step back and I'll think, what do I have to do? I'll think, you know, that there's 20 things on this list that I want to do, this week. I want to revamp my YouTube channel. I want to get like 20 pieces of content out on my YouTube channel. I want to write a scheme of work on, you know, Romeo and Juliet. I want to you know, plan my lessons for the next 5 weeks in advance. But actually, no, what do I actually have to do? You know, what will there actually be consequences for me tomorrow if I don't do? So try and get, you know, your child to sort of break it down. What absolutely has to be done? You know, what can wait? And then break it down from there. And then if they've got through all the this has to be done, then it's time to look at the I would like to do things as well. But also in this time, you know, thinking about the bigger goals. I mean, you know, those of you who've got like older children, this is actually a great time to, you know, perhaps get on, you know, UCAS, the university's website, start thinking about the bigger picture. What do they actually want? Get them to start, you know, we've been talking a lot about adults, you know, using this time to think, well, what do we actually want from life? But, you know, our teenagers can use this time to start having those kind of conversations, questions with themselves as well. And start thinking about what motivates them. And I was reading a great article about this yesterday, but also getting the, you know, it's brilliant if they're like, right, I want to be a lawyer, so I am going to go and do a law degree at Nottingham, so I'm going to need, you know, this A-levels, I'm going to need, you know, AOB, I need to go and do my law degree, then I'm going to do my, you know, barrister training, I'm going to go here to suppose, do my barrister training, then I'm going to get my partnership, and then, you know, so on and so forth. Brilliant if they're like that, but there's probably a lot, you're probably thinking your child, if you ask them, what do you want to do? More common response from teenagers, but get them to start thinking about what motivates them. You know, do they want, you know, are they motivated by things like competition? Are they motivated, is money going to be important to them later on, you know? So, for example, I mean, I've had these sort of conversations with children, but, you know, if they say, like, they want to earn loads of money, but also they'd really like to work with children, be a teacher. Chances are, you know, I hate to break it to them, but if you're going to go into that profession, it's one of those professions you do it for the love, really, more so than the money. So, you know, if there's a bit of a mismatch there, so they need to think, well, what is it that they want to do? Is it that they want loads of money, or is it more important that they feel fulfilled, that they feel like they're doing work that makes a difference? So use this time, you know, have those big conversations, because you might find those big things, that big conversation, you know, like, do they want to go to uni? Is uni right for them? Or are they working for an apprenticeship? Those big conversations will help them with the little things. Actually break it down, because then they think, well, no, you know, I've got to do this English homework because, you know, ultimately I've got to get better at English, because I've got to get my grade 5 in English so that I can go to this sixth form college and I can do this course that I want to do, and then it will lead me on to here, you know. And they'll just start, they'll understand, you know, there's a point to everything. Nothing that they've been asked to do is wasting their time. There is a point and a purpose to it all, and, you know, they've got this time, see it as a gift rather than a curse. You know, they've got this time, how can they make it count? Just a few other bits as well. I mean, extrinsic motivation, rewards. You know, if your child needs it, you know, try and give it to them. Try and offer them whatever encouragement they need. It might be quite hard at the moment in lockdown, because obviously, yeah, you can't take them out, I don't know, take them to the cinema or something you might normally use as a treat, can't be done, but try and think about something, you know. It might be just like you buy them a new game for their Xbox, but yeah, you know, reward them, because this is really hard and they are doing really, really well, to keep going at all and to find that motivation. So lots of, you know, rewards, encouragement, things like try and get them out for exercise, which I'm guilty of myself, not getting out for enough exercise, but try and get them out on those walks. You might have a teenager who's really sporty, and that's, you know, easy. They're, you know, happy to go off for a run every day. You might have a teenager who needs more motivation for that, but, you know, that is going to help them with, you know, them focusing when they've got to sit in front of a computer screen. So bedtimes, again, bedtimes and waking times, try and keep them consistent, have a pattern. Even if actually at the moment, you know, yes, they probably are going to go to bed later and they're going to wake up later. I would be amazed if their sleep routine is switched the other way. But try and at least keep, you know, some kind of consistency. It's because that's what I said at the beginning, like consistency. So, you know, fine if they're not ready to start work before 10 o'clock. fine, let them have that sleep, but when it's 10 o'clock, that's when they go and work for it. I think my final thing, really is that accept compromise. Don't go for perfection at the moment. No one is expecting you to. And yes, I know it is a bit frightening because we keep talking about that, oh, they're going to be so behind, we're missing so much learning time, but everyone is being affected by this. It's not going to be just your child. And the teachers, they know what they're doing. They will have plans in place, and they will catch your child up. So it's compromise, just anything, a little bit at all, a little bit of them doing some work at home, better than them not doing anything at all. If your child's always been, a bit hard to motivate, they're not going to suddenly sit down and do 6 hours a day of schoolwork. It's just not going to happen. But even if you can get a couple of hours out of them each day, that is something. That is progress. It's just those little things that are going to make that journey back a little bit easier when they go back to school. Fingers crossed in September. I'm not even sure it's going to be in September. So I hope that helped. It's given you a few ideas there, just a few ways to just sort of pick them up a little bit if they are feeling flat and struggling, which I say is completely normal, completely understandable at this point, because the grown-ups are feeling it as well. So the other thing, just keep talking to them, keep showing them that you understand and that you're on their side, which I know you are. But you are on their side, you're working with them, not against them at this moment. So as I say, it comes back to that, compromise with them, just get them to get as far as you can with it. So other things I just want to mention quickly as well. I did obviously my masterclass on Monday, which was brilliant. I'm running another free challenge. This one is aimed at slightly younger. I'm going to do year 6, because I know I've got quite a few parents in the group who are got year 6s that are going into secondary school, and you've joined the group to get ahead. So year 6s, 7 and 8. Older ones can join in as well, just that's sort of the age group that's going to be most pitched at. But it's going to be a 3-day challenge based around The Apprentice. Can't call it The Apprentice because the copyright people will be after me. So it's called Enter the Boardroom, but it's going to be 3 days. I'm really looking forward to it. I've already had loads of fun, just even we're putting the starting bits together for it. 3 days, it's going to be a challenge. Each day is going to be a different task for them to do. It will run in a closed Facebook group. I will do lives each day, but if your child can't catch up, because I know obviously like year 6, some year 6s are already back in school some days, so if your child misses it, they can catch up later. I will keep the group open for a week, so you don't have to do it on the day. It will be open for a bit longer, but there'll be a task each day. So they're going to come up with their product or service that they want to sell. They're going to do some writing to inform and instruct about that product. Then they're going to come up with an advert. So we're going to look at how to storyboard an advert to make it effective, how to tell a story that's going to engage us and make us want to buy that product. And then they're also going to do the sales pitch, which we know is the key as well, the persuasive writing with that. So all the tasks, it's fun, but it's also all based around real English tasks, real English skills that they're going to need later on as well. So I don't think I posted, I think I put the event in the group. There will be a post coming very soon, but the event should be in the group. All you need to do is put your email in, and then later on you will get an invite into the Facebook group for that one as well. So that's a nice fun thing, and hopefully it sort of ties in with what I said today as well. I was trying to think of something that I thought they would enjoy, something because I know like the workshop on Monday was brilliant, but it was quite academic. It was very like, this is how we write an analysis paragraph, this is how we make our descriptive writing better. So this one is more about let's have some fun with our learning, let's be creative with our learning, is kind of how I'm pitching it, how I'm thinking about this one. So there's that, and then there is summer school, which is going to be the last week of July, and that's going to be quite an intensive, that's 5 days. Each day we're going to have quite an in-depth workshop. So if you were on my workshop on Monday, we'll see it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of different English skills. The idea is, the summer school, we're going to slow it all down and go really in depth. So we'll have a day on how to read fiction, we're going to have a day on how to read non-fiction, then we're going to have a whole day on creative writing, a whole day on transactional, and I'm also want to work on a bit like what I've talked about today. I want to have some session on mindset and motivation for the kids as well, because I think, it's going to be hard. Going back into school in September is going to be hard, so I want this summer school to be something that is going to help them help them transition back along their way. That is my plan for it. And so it's going to be £120 for the whole week. That includes all your workshop. It's going to be a workbook on every single day as well. So at least 5 workbooks. If you've seen my workbooks before, don't blow my own trumpet, but they're quite detailed. It's not just, here's a worksheet, go and do it. I'll put a lot of detail into them, so just they'll be worth investing in. So they're going to be a workbook for each day, also a Q&A session with me at the end of the week. Unfortunately, it's one of those things, if we were face to face, we'd have cake and tea. We can't do that, but I will sit down and do a Q&A session with the students. I'm only offering 8 spaces, and that's because I need to be able to give the students, you're paying £120 for it. I need to be able to give your child one-to-one support. I need to tailor things to your child. I'm also offering, if you sign up before the end of the month, before the end of June, then I'm offering a free one-to-one session with me as well, and that's worth £25 on its own, so you get that as an extra bonus if you sign up. You can do it as a deposit, so you can pay £50 now and then pay the remainder 7 days before the start of the workshop as well, so you can spread things out, because I know money's not easy for everyone right now. So there'll be loads more on the summer school coming up over the next few weeks, and an apprentice will be at the end of the month as well. So that's my kind of sales spiel done at you as well. So I'm going to sign off now, because I'll probably put off bath time as long as I actually can reasonably put it off for. I hope everyone has a lovely evening. If you've got any questions about anything I've mentioned tonight, or just anything in general, please feel free to ask me. That's kind of what the group's here for, you to voice things. You are allowed to post as well. If you want to post questions in there, if you want advice from other parents about things as well, things that they might be able to relate to, then please feel free to go ahead and do that as well. So I'm going to say good evening to everyone. Have a lovely evening, a lovely rest of the week, and I'll be back again next week with a new topic.